Let's combat and fight back with maltrats. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.
A BB Fahodie, a BB to me. Peace to all of my thinkers, truth speakers, and truth seekers. Welcome to another Truth to Power Talk with your sister, Dr. Ma'at. Thank you for joining another powerful discussion. And tonight I have with me another powerful guest, but he is no stranger to the community, student minister, Dr. Wesley Muhammad. How are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm excellent by Allah's grace. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right, Doc. I can't complain. I do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be with my listeners and I tonight. And you brought your crew. You brought your folks here because I see that oh my goodness, we're already up to over 100. I'm going to say 100,000 people already watching. And so I thank you for, taking time out to be here and to also bring your supporters with you. Family, take a moment out right now to thumb up this video. Thumb up this video if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure that you thumb it up, share it. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I usually have these Truth to Power talks maybe like once or twice a week. And so subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that as soon as I go live, you will be notified. Also, family, if you're watching on Facebook, head on over to YouTube. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. All right. And like I said, I only go live once or twice a week. So you don't have to worry about getting a bunch of notifications from me. And so tonight's topic is the assassination of Malcolm X reopened. And so, Doctor, what prompted me to call you, I think it was like either last week or the week before last, I reached out to you because an article dropped. I saw this article right here. Let me share my screen. As a matter of fact, I'll put this over here. All right. And so let me share this one. All right. And so this article dropped on November the 18th. And I think this was around the time that I reached out to you. And it was entitled Malcolm X's 1965 Assassination, Convictions of Two Men Squashed. Okay. So it says right here, and I'm not going to read the entire article, family. It says the two men convicted of the murder in 1965 of the U.S. civil rights leader Malcolm X have had their convictions quashed. Okay. Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam did not get the justice they deserved, the Manhattan District Attorney said. So it said this, the state Supreme Court said a reinvestigation found significant evidence that was not known at the time of the trial, in which would likely have seen the men acquitted. Okay, it says Malcolm X was shot dead at New York City ballroom in front of his family. Aziz and Islam, along with the third man, Thomas Hagin. I definitely want to talk about Thomas Hagin. It says were convicted of the murder and sentenced to life in prison. The three men, members of the Nation of Islam, political and religious movement, have all been since paroled. And it says that Islam died in 2009. Now, I want to stop here. So you read the article, the three men, members of the Nation of Islam. So, Doc, I know you've been hearing this for years, that people say the Nation killed Malcolm X. This is what's been said for years. The Nation did it. These were members of the Nation from Newark, New Jersey. They did it. We've seen movies, Malcolm X, Spike Lee's movie Malcolm X, that would make it appear that the Nation was complicit in the assassination of Malcolm X. So I ask you, Doctor, what do you think about that when you read news articles like this? The three men, members of the Nation of Islam, right? These were the people who killed Malcolm X. What do you say to the people who believe that it was the Nation and saying that these are members of the Nation of Islam? And so they say the Nation killed Malcolm. What are your thoughts on that, Doc?
Well, my thoughts are, first, the important thing about that article is not that statement about the three members of the Nation of Islam. What's important in that article is the point of the article. The two of those three were exonerated. Exonerated meaning their convictions were thrown out. That's the point of that article. And that's what we were celebrating, that after 50 years, these two brothers who were well known as members of the Nation of Islam in New York, which is why they were framed for the murder of Malcolm X. They were innocent of that crime, but it was the determination of the federal government to frame the Nation of Islam for the murder. And to help do that, they framed Muhammad Aziz, at that time Norman 3X Butler, and Khalil Islam, at that time Thomas 15X Johnson. Now ask yourself, you mentioned Newark. Ask yourself, Dr. Maya, within days of that tragic event, February 21st, 1965, within days, they knew they had pictures of all 5 of the execution team. They identified Leon 3X Davis. They identified William 25X Bradley. They identified and they questioned the NYPD, Benjamin 3X Thomas. Within days, they knew the execution team came out of New Jersey. Yet, they did not arrest Benjamin 3X Thomas. They did not arrest William 25X Bradley. They released Leon 3X Davis. They knew that so-called torpedoes from New Jersey were the execution team. They knew this within a week. They had photos. So the $64,000 question, Dr. Maya, to our audience, if they knew the execution team came out of a Nation of Islam mosque in New Jersey, why frame 2 innocent men from New York? Why not just lift up the New Jersey torpedoes? You want to know why? Norman 3X Butler and Thomas 15X Johnson lead us to the Nation of Islam, but they don't lead us to the intelligence apparatus of the United States government. The 5-man execution team from Newark, New Jersey, if they pursued them, the pursuit would lead to New Jersey, but well beyond New Jersey, to the intelligence apparatus of the United States government. Leon 3X Davis was a protected asset. William 25X Bradley was an NYPD FBI asset. So even though they knew that it was so-called New Jersey torpedoes that pulled the trigger, they did not arrest them in order to make the case that the Nation of Islam killed Malcolm X. They framed 2 innocent but well-known Muslims in order to frame the Nation of Islam, because those Muslims were not connected to the intelligence apparatus, when in fact it was the intelligence apparatus of this country that orchestrated that assassination.
So, Doc, let me ask you about this, because I believe a few months ago, there was a letter that was found of a police officer. I think he was on his deathbed, and his daughter either discovered the letter, and said that the NYPD was in the CIA was complicit in it. There we go, Doc. Could you talk to us about the letter?
Yes. First, let's back up because this story began long before Reggie Wood published the deathbed letter of his cousin, Ray Wood. Lieutenant Coyle of the NYPD, who was over the investigation during the trial of the three brothers, informed District Attorney Dermody that the NYPD had 3 undercover officers in the Audubon ballroom. The FBI's Fulton acknowledged that the FBI had 9 informants in the Audubon on that day. The NYPD had acknowledged having 3 undercover officers in the Audubon on that day. The 3 who were in the Audubon ballroom, most infamously, of course, we know Eugene Roberts, but the 2 others that Lieutenant Coyle acknowledged having in the Audubon ballroom has gotten minimal, but not absent, but minimal conversation in this narrative. The other 2 NYPD undercover officers were McKinley Welch, who was a boss agent that was sent into New York. He infiltrated the secretarial department of Muhammad Mosque number 7 in New York. And then he was told to leave with Malcolm. Bossy undercover agent McKinley Welch was with Eugene Roberts as the second of 3 NYPD bossy undercover agents that were at the ballroom. The third was Ray Wood. Ray Wood was a bossy agent, and the 3 of these, Ray Wood, Eugene Roberts, McKinley Welch, they all had the same handler, Tony Ulasewicz, the field commander of this particular bossy operation who was over infiltrating Malcolm's organization. Ulasewicz sent these 3 undercover agents into the ballroom. So Ray Wood's presence on that day was known before this letter. Now, there's a lot of talk of the second suspect that was caught. There were actually 2 second suspects caught. Ray Wood was sitting in the very first row on the right side. The assassination team was sitting on the left side facing the stage. When the shooting started, Ray Wood in the first row, Ray Wood, a very light-skinned, Latin-esque looking gentleman, he ran to the exit immediately to the left of the stage. Some of Malcolm's people, seeing him running, grabbed him. That's when Patrolman Hoy rescued him. Patrolman Hoy was stationed outside in the front of the Audubon. During the ruckus, he ran in. He sees Ray Wood being grabbed and handled by a crowd. Patrolman Hoy rescues Ray Wood. They go out the left exit, get in a police car, and drives to Wadsworth police station. Now, there was another second suspect caught at the scene of the crime. That's Leon Davis. Now, why I bring this up, because there's some confusion, because both of these gentlemen are light-skinned men. And so the accounts of this light-skinned second suspect became confused and conflated in the literature. But it's important to distinguish the two, and we can distinguish the two. How? Well, we know that Ray Wood, who was sitting in the front, we know from the book that his cousin Reggie Wood published, giving more details of Ray Wood's account beyond what is here in the letter. Talmadge Hare and Leon 3X Davis were sitting in the front row on the left side. When they shot, they turned around and ran down the second aisle. The two of them ran down the second aisle to the exit to the front. During the shooting, both Hare and Leon Davis got hit. Hare got hit in the leg. Leon Davis got hit in his side. Multiple witnesses say before Hare exited the Audubon ballroom, this light-skinned, the other one who was running with Hare, all of them described as light-skinned, the light-skinned shooter, but he shot in the side. He exits the Audubon before Hare. He gets accosted by the crowd. Then Hare exits. He gets accosted by the crowd. So at the front of the Audubon, there are two shooters who are getting handled by the crowd. Both of them. Now, Herman Ferguson gives us a very deep one of Malcolm's people, one of the most important witnesses on that day. He gives the account of when this wounded light-skinned one, Leon 3X Davis, is put in a police car that has officials, he calls them brass of the NYPD in it. Not regular patrolmen, not a regular RPM car, but this car had police brass, and it is in this car that the wounded light-skinned shooter is put in. So Patrolman Hoy captured Ray Wood in the side of at the side of the Audubon. An unidentified brass rescued Leon 3X Davis at the front of the Audubon. Both of these are light-skinned second suspects that were caught by the police, but one was wounded, the other was unwounded. The final thing I want to say on Ray Wood, why it's important that that background is put out there. We knew about Ray Wood long before Reggie Wood, his cousin, published the letter. Now, Ray Wood's daughter, wait a minute, let me back up. Both Ray Wood and Eugene Roberts, two of the three acknowledged undercover NYP officers who were there. Let's see, and when we finish, at some point, please ask me about Brother Dick Gregory.
Okay.
Let me finish this point. Eugene Roberts and Ray Wood both were promoted after and as a consequence of their role in the events, the tragic events of February 21st, 1964. Both of them. Ray Wood was promoted and awarded the Statue of Liberty case that he was working was a case to rob Malcolm X of his internal security, led by Khalil Saeed, who was arrested as a result of Ray Wood. Malcolm was stripped of his security. Ray Wood, in his Statue of Liberty case, was an integral part of stripping Malcolm of his security on that day. As a consequence, the city of New York awarded and promoted Ray Wood and Gene Roberts. They became heroes. Now, why do I say that? Ray Wood's daughter, who remembers her father the way the awards hanging on their wall remember him as a hero celebrated by the New York Police Department. And she understandably desires that that be her father's legacy. So she has come out and said this is all a fraud.
I did hear that.
And no, it is not. If Eugene Roberts, who died a lonely and broken man, imagine his daughter saying, no, we want to remember my father the way the New York Police Department celebrate him. We want that to be his legacy. But the facts say that Eugene Roberts' legacy was he was a participant in the murder of Malcolm X, the same with Ray Wood. I love his daughter is a beautiful daughter, but she wants his legacy to be defined by the New York Police Department, who celebrated him for his participation in the murder of Malcolm X. So no, we love her, but her rejection, her claim that this is false must be rejected as the wishful thinking of a loving daughter. We understand it, we're sympathetic to it, but we reject it because we knew about Ray Woods as one of the 3 undercover officers acknowledged by Lieutenant Coyle. We knew that long before Reggie Wood published this letter.
Okay, so Doc, you said you wanted to address Dick Gregory's comments, because Baba Dick Gregory, and peace be upon his soul, he did make some comments about the assassination of Malcolm X. And I don't want to misquote him, but I believed he talked about how he was looking at the trajectory of the bullet, and he said that it didn't come from below, it came from above. I mean, you could help me clarify those statements, Doc. I don't I don't remember exactly what he said, but I know you wanted to address his comments as well.
Yes, because I do see him in the comments, and I get this often, and I too must start with giving honor to Baba Dick Gregory. I have tremendous love and respect for him. What Baba Dick Gregory says, whether it's regarding the death of Michael Jackson, the death of Malcolm X, I pursued greatly to try to find the truth of it. With due respect to Baba Dick Gregory, this particular claim of his, I have found absolutely no support for it. Now, of course, Dick Gregory says that he was reading through the autopsy report, and I have the autopsy report that was done, and I have the grand jury testimony of the medical examiner who conducted the autopsy. Baba Dick Gregory said that in examining the autopsy, he saw evidence that Malcolm was shot from above in the back, and that the shooters, the frontal shooters, were shooting blanks. I don't know. It's possible that Baba Dick Gregory was importing facts from other assassinations. For example, Sirhan, who was convicted of shooting and killing Robert F. Kennedy in 1968. He likely was shooting blanks as a diversionary distraction. Senator Robert F. Kennedy was shot clandestinely from the back, while the patsy shot blanks. It's also the case that Yigal Amir, the patsy shooter of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, that he too was shooting frontal blanks. So it is one of the, when you talk about the morphology of a government hit, and Malcolm's execution was a government hit, as was the assassination of Martin Luther King, JFK, RFK, and Yitzhak Rabin. These were government hits. And one MO, one technique of a government hit is the use of a frontal shooter with blanks while delivering the kill shot from the back clandestinely. But all the evidence says that the execution of Malcolm X was not similar to the operationally, was not similar to the operation that killed RFK. It was more similar to the operation that executed JFK. And so we know, for example, all the evidence, the tracks, it is not the case, but very opposite the case, that the trajectories of the bullets were from down upward, not upward downward. The trajectories show the perforations of the chest from the shotgun. They all show that the direction of impact was from below and from the front. And this is why, if all of the witnesses attested Malcolm fell backwards, he didn't fall forward, a shotgun blast from the back would have pushed him forward. But all of the witnesses attest he fell backward and hit his head. So, no, those bullets, unfortunately, were not blanks. And so I just wanted to clear that up because I love Baba Dick Gregory. But in this case, I cannot co-sign that particular claim of our dear brother.
Okay. And so Doc, I want to move into Thomas Hagin. Thomas Hagin was arrested, and he gave 2 affidavits. And they said, he gave one and then he gave another, and people were saying that, he contradicted himself, I think, in the second one. But can we talk about Thomas Hagin? Who was Thomas Hagin? And what did he speak about in these affidavits? Do you think that he was being truthful in these affidavits, Dr. Wesley?
These are his 2 handwritten affidavits. The first affidavit written in 1977. The second affidavit written in 1978. Now, you asked very good questions. And no, most people think that the answers to your questions are easy. Thomas Hagin confessed. He detailed the plot. We have the secrets of the assassination here. We have good reason to reject that postulate. While I believe that there is important information in these two documents, it is very clear to me that over the course of, I'm going to switch, Talmadge Hayer. I'm going to talk about Thomas Hagin in a minute. Over the course of Talmadge Hayer's unfolding confessions beginning in February 1966, I believe it was February, where he confessed during a trial. From that confession, the evolution of his confession, including the affidavits, including his discussions with Gail Nobles, including his discussion with Peter Goldman, including his discussion with Tony Brown, his confession has, and importantly, his conversations with attorney William Kunstler, his evolving. It's important to note the evolution of his confession. Now, a very important point. With the recent exoneration of our two brothers, Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam, if you read, and everyone should, the 43-page motion that the Manhattan DA presented, which resulted in the exoneration, he outlines the very robust investigation that his office, in collaboration with the Innocence Project and others, the intensive investigation they did, reinvestigation regarding the matter. A key point that the Manhattan DA makes here is they made contact with Talmadge Hayer. And Talmadge Hayer refused to participate in this investigation. For many people, that may come as a surprise. When I heard it, I was not surprised that Talmadge Hayer would refuse to participate in this investigation. Why? Well, first, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to these affidavits. While I believe there is truth in here, I believe that it certainly is not the full truth. One, please note that both of these affidavits are in the name of Thomas Hagin. And why is that important? Because that is not his name. It's not a name that he used. It's not an alias that he used. Talmadge Hayer, during trial, details how the misnomer Thomas Hagin derived. He says during court that as he was running out and the crowd was beating on him, and he's fearing for his life, when the police officer reached in to save him, he's asking him questions. He's not the same. He's asking what his name is. He gives his name, Thomas Hare. That's his name. That's the name the FBI has him on because he was arrested. He had a FBI file. But in the melee, the officer heard Thomas Hagin. Thomas Hare tried to correct him, but for whatever reason, the officer, it appeared, maybe to Hare, the officer wouldn't free him until he answered to Thomas Hagin. Whatever the case. Now, that part is my speculation. What isn't speculation is the ideology of Thomas Hagin. The officer misheard Thomas Hare give his name, and because Thomas Hare wanted to be free, he ultimately, the second time the officer said Thomas Hagin, he said, yeah, fine. And he was freed from the clutches of Malcolm's people. So Thomas Hagin was always a misidentification. That was never his name. So I found it very curious that the legal affidavits were not in the name of Thomas Hare. They were both in the name of Thomas Hagin, which Thomas Hare admitted under open court that was never his name. I believe. And Thomas Hare got a sweetheart deal. More than half of Hare's time served was served at home with his family. More than half of the time served, 5 out of 7 days a week, he was not in a jail cell. He was at home with his family. He got a sweeter deal than Butler and Johnson. They did not get the sweet deal that Thomas Hare got. So why did he get such a sweet deal? Well, I believe he withheld more than he revealed. And William Kunstler, who notarized these affidavits, he says in the appeal documents that Thomas Hare, with the first affidavit, 1977 one, that was brief compared to the 1978 one, that he was so scared that he would be killed. And the prison that he was at believed so too, so he was put in protective custody. Who were you afraid of, Mr. Hare? I think we know who he was afraid of in 1977, which I am suggesting is also the reason that in 2021, Thomas Hare still refused to cooperate. Why would you refuse to cooperate in 2021? So many people dead, but you won't cooperate with the DA's investigation to exonerate the brothers, which will then vindicate you. Vindicate the truthfulness of your confession. But he did not want to participate. I am suggesting, Dr. Maya, that we got some good things from now Mujahid, Brother Mujahid, but there is much more that is not in here. And what is not in this affidavit is what helps us to see the bigger picture of what happened on that day, February 21st, 1965.
So Doc, let me ask you this, because then you have folks who will say that Minister Farrakhan had at one point, well, it's two different things I have going on in my mind. So there was an assassination attempt on Minister Farrakhan's life by by one of the daughters of Malcolm X, who believed that he was complicit in the murder of her dad. And then, you fast forward and he's made comments. And one comment that people keep showing over and over and over again is a clip of him saying, Malcolm X was, he was a traitor. And so what do you care what we do with traitors? And then there's another clip of him saying, I feel like I apologize for creating the climate in which he was assassinated. So what are your thoughts on when people go through, they show these different clips and they try to link that together, and then they say things like, not say things, there's a transcript out there of Honorable Elijah Muhammad speaking, and he says, we're going to do to him what Moses does to other people who do what he did. And so some transcripts out there that talks about, where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad expressed his disgust for what Malcolm X was doing at the time. So people will take these things and then kind of create this narrative, right? That, okay, Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made these statements. Some statements were made from Minister Farrakhan, which all allude to, the Nation of Islam being complicit in the assassination of Malcolm X. So what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Wesley Muhammad?
My thoughts are, when you actually get each one of those statements, you see the mischief that is made by those who are presenting or misrepresenting those statements to you. In every case that you cited, let's start with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and then the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Okay. Most of the kill order statements that are part of the popular narrative, when you actually put hands on the documents, which I have, you see that the people who are representing the Malcolm X narrative are liars. The March 1964 FBI document that is the source of that claim, we need to do to the hypocrites, treat the hypocrites the way Moses did.
Right.
But in multiple other documents, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad cites that same metaphor or biblical, or not metaphor, biblical principle. And Moses didn't kill the Israelites. Moses let Allah kill the hypocrites. That's the whole point of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's posture, and thus the nation's posture towards Malcolm. And that posture is articulated in the statement by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that is always thrown out there, but it's amputated. When the minister said in Muhammad's speech, such a man as Malcolm is worthy of death, they stop it there. But the most important part is a continuation of that same sentence. And he would have met with death if it were not for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's faith in Allah. What's referenced here? The reference is to the Nation of Islam's official posture. Moses being an example is, we don't kill the hypocrites. Allah will deal with the hypocrites. Moses did not kill the hypocrites. God himself burned the hypocrites. That is what the point was. And so the reference to Moses wasn't a kill order, it was an anti-kill order. the statements by the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan that was popularized by Jim Baxter in the movie Brother Minister. The statements about if we deal with our traders, what business of it is yours?
Yes.
The very context, the very event is mischievously misrepresented. Jim Baxter, in his infamous, right here, this is what popularized that mischief. Brother Minister, the assassination of Malcolm X. I said Jim Baxter, it's Jack Baxter or Bastard. He presents that quote and says it was made by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at a secret closed-door meeting. That's a first falsehood. The clip is not from a Nation of Islam closed-door believers meeting. The clip is from part 2 of 1992 Savior's Day, where the minister addressed Malcolm X during Savior's Day, and that next Sunday, he did a follow-up at Mosque Mariam for the public. So presenting that clip as having been made secretly behind closed doors, that was the first lie. And then the statement was ripped out of his context. If you listen to it, the minister was never saying we killed our traitor. He made it clear in that lecture that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad ordered him and all of us to leave Malcolm alone. So whatever was inspired in our heart by what Malcolm was doing against his teacher, whatever was in our heart, we could not act on it. The minister then says, but what business is it of yours, you people out there who got so much to say about how we handle our internal affairs? He said, but what business is it of yours? And then he raises the hypothetical. It's very clear. He raises a hypothetical. If we did deal with our traders like that, what business is it of yours? Did you make him? Did you teach him? Did you put him before the world? That was a hypothetical. It's very clear. And he says clearly, we could not touch Malcolm because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad disallowed us to. So the only way you can pin the death of Malcolm on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or the Nation of Islam, the only way you can do so is by mischievously handling the sources, handling their words. You have to do violence to their words in order to make your point. But if you leave these men's words as they are, you would see, going back to the Moses example, the posture of the Nation of Islam with regard to Malcolm was, leave him alone. Allah is going to take care of that. And what does take care of that mean? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was clear there as well. Don't kill Malcolm, because Malcolm is going to come back to the Nation of Islam, which he was attempting to do. And with Malcolm coming back to the Nation of Islam, that would have been a bigger boon to the nation than a dead Malcolm. That was the posture of the Nation of Islam, and that posture is recorded in the documents, the same place where these other statements are ripped from and devilishly handled, the actual posture of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam is in there too.
Mm-hmm. So Doc, what do you say about the daughter who remember, she was locked up by the FBI for her assassination attempt, and then it is said that Betty Shabazz.
I'll answer it. What do I say of her? We love her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan defended her with her mother, Sister Betty Shabazz, and raised money for her defense. We love her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I do remember when the minister did that. But it's also said that that Betty Shabazz, and peace be upon her soul, until the day that she transitioned, believed that the inner circle of the nation was complicit in the assassination of Malcolm X. Is that true? Did she go to her grave with that idea or with that feeling?
I'm not the one. You can ask that. I'm not incredulous to that. I would not. I'm certainly not dismissive of that. Her feeling that doesn't make it true, but understand, this is why with Sister Betty, those beautiful daughters, and my condolences to the Shabazz family for the loss of our dear sister, Malika Shabazz. We love that family. You won't get us to speak an ill word of that family. Understand something. Sister Betty, pregnant with her daughters, sees her husband and the daughters who are there see their father publicly executed like that. What type of trauma would you imagine that causes? So, however those beautiful sisters emote, I am not going to criticize them. But feelings don't make fact.
Come on. So, Doc, my last question. I know we're winding down. We've been on for 53 minutes, and I said we're going to go for about an hour. What are your thoughts about the Netflix series Who Killed Malcolm X, or Who Shot Malcolm X? It was a Netflix series. I think it was maybe 6 or 7 part series. And I'm pretty sure you got a whiff of it or saw it. But what are your thoughts on that series?
Oh, I've studied it.
You studied it
in great detail. The Netflix series is an example, a textbook example of a particular intelligence operation called a limited hangout. Limited hangout is an operation that both the FBI and the CIA, but mainly the CIA, engages in. Limited hangout is an intelligence operation in which the agency will disclose a lesser crime publicly in order to conceal a greater crime. So it will, in a limited fashion, hang out, dang out guilt of one thing, the aim of which is to capture the attention of the people and then mislead them away from discovering the bigger picture. That's what Netflix's Who Killed Malcolm is. How do we know that? Because of the number, we can identify it as an intelligence operation, limited hangout, because of all of the intelligence people that participated in the show. Intelligence bossy operative Tony Bowser, Arthur Fulton, FBI agent, Gary Future, bossy agent, John Fox, FBI historian. The number of intelligence personnel who participated in the Netflix series Who Killed Malcolm X is proof positive that this was an intelligence operation, specifically a limited hangout. Now, how should we visualize this limited hangout? It's very easy, very transparent. First, understand that Abdul Rahman Muhammad is not the historian of the material, even though he's the face and we follow him through 6 episodes. The research, he was window dressing, with due respect. He was representing the research of 2 white people who are the producers and the researchers for that Netflix series. Phil Bertelsen and Rachel Dretson. If you saw these 2 white people as the authors of the show, we today would be disinclined from gobbling it up.
Facts.
So they hid behind the black face of a non-historian, Abdul Rahman Muhammad. He never wrote a book. He wrote a blog. That's it. But he became the face of their research. Now, illustrate, as we close, illustrate, Brother Wesley, the limited hangout. You say this is an intelligence operation, a limited hangout. Illustrate that very easily. The focus of the series was William 25X Bradley. And the little bit of disclosures, the hangout, the limited hangout, is the time that was spent revealing the FBI's and Bossy's surveillance of Malcolm. Okay. But by the time so they gave us that. Yes. We bugged his phone. We had all this surveillance. We deemed Malcolm an enemy. So all of this was dangled out, right? This is the limited hangout. And so I had Muslims calling me excited. You see Netflix? Oh boy, they telling truth. Thinking that through Netflix, the devil has finally come forward. Well, no, except in a limited way. When you get to episode 5 and 6, all of the focus is on William 25X Bradley, the alleged shotgun shooter. But all of the focus is on his relationship to Muhammad Mas number 25 in Newark. What they deceptively left out was William 25X Bradley's relationship to the New York Police Department and the FBI. One of the most important witnesses, 2 of the most important witnesses to the murder. I mentioned one, Herman Ferguson, but also Roland Shepard. Now, Roland Shepard is a white man. He was a socialist, one of Malcolm's socialist comrades. When Malcolm would go to speak at the militant forum, as he did, Roland Shepard took care of security for Malcolm. at the militant form. Roland Shepard, whenever Malcolm would speak at the Audubon, Roland Shepard is there. Roland Shepard on the 21st of February was outside, as he always is, selling their paper, their socialist paper. When Malcolm arrives around 2:15 or so. Roland and Malcolm chop it up a bit. Malcolm goes in. Roland finishes up selling his papers, and then he goes in the Audubon to take his normal seat, the seat that the press normally has, which is when you're facing the stage. There are two rows of chairs, the left side, the right side, and then a middle aisle. Roland Shepard and the press, often the white press, normally sat in the front row on the left side facing the stage. Roland went to take his seat, his normal seat in the front row left side with the rest of the press. Gene Roberts, the bossy agent, stops Roland. And we're talking about Netflix. I'm illustrating what the critical information that the Netflix series left out, the limited operation. Mm-hmm. A limited operation, by definition, discloses the lesser crime in order to disguise the bigger crime. So I'm illustrating that. Roland goes to his seat in the front row left side, but Gene Roberts comes to him and says, Roland, you're not sitting here today. He takes him over to the right side and sits him in the front row. Roland says he thought that was strange, but he figured, okay, well, maybe it's because there's some VIPs who that front side is reserved for. So he goes over to the right, but as he takes his seat, he turns because he wants to see who it is that is sitting in his seat. And as he turns and looks, he sees not any white people, VIPs or otherwise. He sees this big, burly black dude, beard, with a gray trench coat on.
Bradley.
He didn't know who he was, yes. But look, follow. He said, okay. So he takes his new seat. The guns start. The shooting starts. He sees Bradley with the shotgun. Of course, he's not known as Bradley. He sees it fine. Fast forward to the next week. The NYPD calls him in to make a statement as a witness in their Manhattan station. As Roland Shepard is being interrogated by the NYPD about what he witnessed, they lay out pictures. Say, do you know these people? The pictures include members of Malcolm's crew, if you will, and others. One of the pictures that he sees put before him is the man that he saw who took his seat with the gray shirt on that had the shotgun. So now he's afraid. Roland Shepard says before he responds to does he know any of these people, he has to get his head together to see how I'm going to answer. Because, let me back up. The NYPD hated the black Muslims and they hated the red communists or socialists. So there was a hostile relationship between Roland Shepard and his socialist group and the NYPD. They were hostile. So Roland Shepard, that's why he's reluctant. So he said before he answers this officer about who I recognize, I need to get my head straight. He asks, can I go to the bathroom? He gets up, he goes to use the bathroom. On his way out, he's at the end of Manhattan NYPD station a week after the assassination. On his way out of the bathroom, he passes by the man in the gray coat that took his seat at the Audubon, that wielded the shotgun. He said, this man, so now he's shook. He says, this man goes into an office there at the NYPD station as if it was his own office. So now Roland is scared. When he goes back, he doesn't tell the cops nothing because now he figures, all right, he's being set up. They show him the picture of the man who did shoot him, and that man is here in the office, and he looks like is here in the station, and he looks like he got an office here. So Roland says, no, I don't recognize any of these, all black people look alike, ha, 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 appealing to the racism of the Irish police. So he leaves the station. Years later, after Manny Marable's book is published in 2011, and then Abdurrahman Muhammad's his blog, the one piece he did on Malcolm X, he wrote a blog identifying William 25X Bradley as Al-Mustafa Shabazz of Newark. And that blog had a picture of Al-Mustafa Shabazz of Newark in it. Somebody sent Roland Shepard that blog with that picture of Al-Mustafa Shabazz, a.k.a. William 25X Bradley. Roland Shepard says that's the one that took my seat, was given my seat at the Audubon, who wielded the shotgun, and who was at the New York Police Department a week later, going in what looked like was his own office. We know that the FBI, William 25X Bradley, and back up, Paul Lee, who was considered the preeminent Malcolm X scholar in the early 90s. He reports having discovered several FBI assets that were in Muhammad Mosque number 25. We know that William 25X Bradley was an FBI asset in number 25. We know that the FBI, the Newark office of the FBI, going back to 1963, had a file on William 25X Bradley, going back to 1963. So he was, another thing, Zach Kondo, author of this book, but since I'm holding up books, I would recommend this book by our brother, student minister Demetric Muhammad. If you want to buy a Malcolm X book right now, I certainly would advise this one over against this one, though this one has its value. But he's mystified in here because the descriptions of the shotgun wielder describe him as having such expertise with the shotgun, a very difficult weapon to wield. And Zach Kondo says he can't account for a young 20-year-old in mid-60s having such expertise in such a difficult weapon. Well, now we know exactly how to account for that. And the Manhattan DA in the new motion confirms what we knew. William Bradley was a machine gunner for the Marine Corps, and he was a Green Beret. He was trained as a machine gunner. He was a weapons specialist in the Marine Corps in a Green Beret. So he was a military weapons specialist. He was an FBI asset in Muhammad Ma's 25. And that relationship with the New York Police Department, the liaison between boss of New York Police Department and the FBI, is no doubt the background of William Bradley's authoritative presence in the NYPD station on that day when Roland Shepard was leaving out of the bathroom, as Bradley was entering into an office. None of this made it in that limited hangout called Netflix, Who Killed Malcolm X. You come away from that thinking William 25X Bradley's main association was Temple Number 25. And he was acting on behalf of Temple Number 25. But instead of looking at William Bradley, we need to be looking at William Sullivan, assistant director of the FBI, who was over the counterintelligence program executed against Black nationalist groups. William Sullivan was ultimately the main handler of William Bradley. And so Netflix have us reaching that low-hanging fruit. That's what limited hangouts do. William Bradley was low-hanging fruit. William Sullivan is what we needed to hear more of how he planted his assets and used his assets in Number 25 North.
Doc, I know I said I had one.
The name of the book that you should get. I'm sorry.
Okay, look.
Didn't y'all kill Malcolm?
Hold it up again, Doc.
The propaganda against the Nation of Islam. If you want to get a book on the subject right now, get this book by Brother Demetric Muhammad.
All right, Doc. So I know I did say that was my last question, but this is really my last question. I promise. This is my last question. The Nation of Islam and others are advocating for the files in the assassination case of Malcolm X to be reopened. When they reopen these files, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that people have no choice but to say but to acknowledge that, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the Nation of Islam had nothing to do? Like, what do you think is going to happen when they reopen these files? Because it's going to happen. But when they reopen these files, what do you think is going to happen, Doc?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because I want to end on a discussion of the files.
Mm-hmm.
The Malcolm X narrative, the official and the popular Malcolm X narrative that is constructed by the 5 horsemen of Malcolm X scholarship, the 5 horsemen being Peter Goldman, Carl Evans, Zach Kondo, Manning Marable, and Les and Tamara Payne. These are the 5 horsemen, I call, of Malcolm X scholarship. And they have constructed the popular and official narrative of Malcolm X. And it is all wrong. Whenever Dr. Maya, I speak on the subject of Malcolm, invariably you get people who say, I never heard that before, which is fine. But in more cases than not, that thought is immediately followed by a second thought. I never heard that before. That nigga making that up. The reason you never heard it before is not because I'm making it up. It's not because I'm privy to some secret information. The reason you never heard it before is because the architects of the narrative that you rely on are guilty of the crime of commission and the crime of omission. The crime of commission because they lie or they fabricate. Carl Evans or Carl Evans is a perfect example of mischief-making scholarship that would take a source and lie on that source. The other thing the five horsemen of Malcolm X scholarship do is their narrative is based on a very selective use of the available material. What is the available material? I have to walk you through it. It's talking about the files. We don't have to wait for the opening of the files in order to have the revelation. The files that exist right now give tremendous clarity to what happened, but none of the five horsemen, rely sufficiently on these files. And what are these files? So allow me to walk us through it, so you understand what's available for us. This is why I don't have a book. I'm preparing a document. This right here, 630 pages. This is just my typed notes. The report in the book is going to be extracted from these typed notes. Most of it, the data in there, you're not going to encounter in the official Malcolm X narrative. Why? Where does it come from? Allow me to walk us through the files so we understand what's available. Why I might say things that you never heard before, but why the fault isn't on me. The fault is on those upon whom you rely to get your Malcolm X information. First, we start with the 1966 trial transcript. That there's a wealth of important data in the trial transcript. Most of these people did not make good use of the trial transcript. Why? Because it's 3,000 pages, I suspect. 3,000 pages in 4 or 5 books. So start there. If we utilize the trial transcript better, that alone will alter the narrative. But those 3,000 pages of trial transcript that are bound in 5 books, those 5 books happen to be only 5 documents of a 5,000 document file. I hope you got what I said. Those 3,000 pages,
right,
that are in 5 books. Those 5 books with their 3,000 pages themselves are only 5 documents in a file that has 5,000 documents. That file is the New York City Municipal Archive, specifically the Malcolm X assassination case file. There are 5,000 documents available online. And just 5 of those documents give us 3,000 pages. I was blessed to go through the 3,000 page transcript. I was blessed to go through the 5,000 documents on the New York City Municipal Archive, but then go further. We want all of the FBI files released. But did you know that currently there are 9,000 FBI files released and available? And by Allah's grace, we have those 9,000 files available. This is how we can catch people like Carl Evans in their lie when they misrepresent a source, because we have the source. The CIA documents, we don't have a lot, but what we do have, we're blessed to have them. The NYPD bossy documents, we have some. So there is a tremendous amount of file material. That's what I draw from. But the five horsemen of Malcolm X scholarship, they are profoundly selective in what they use. They give no evidence that they have been thorough in their study. They give no evidence that they have examined, or certainly they don't use the wealth of material that is in the file. And I would like to give one glaring example, if it's not too much.
Please.
An example of a jewel. See, because you got to excavate. That's a lot of material. Most folks just don't have the patience, but I'm blessed to be paid to do this. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan brought me to Chicago. He said, focus on my scholarship. So that's what I do. I don't moonlight in this, by Allah's grace, thanks to the beneficence of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I availed myself to that full body of material. And that's how I can say, with no fear of contradiction, the official narrative, the popular narrative derived by these five horsemen is a false narrative. Let me illustrate just one jewel of what you find when you dig into this material, and then I'm done. The last week of his life, Brother Malcolm, he gave an interview with Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace says to Malcolm, so well, you say the Muslims are trying to kill you now. We didn't get to it, but you have to know, Malcolm's house was firebombed in a FBI, NYPD involved operation on the 14th. On the 15th, he's angry, understandably. He's blaming the Nation of Islam. By the 21st, he's not blaming the Nation of Islam. He is saying that that's a mistake that he made on the 15th, prematurely blaming the Nation of Islam. But I digress. On the 15th, he's angry. He's blaming the Nation of Islam for seeking his life. Mike Wallace says to him, well, Elijah Muhammad says, and then he quotes the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, saying, we the nation, we the Muslims, we don't carry weapons. We don't carry guns because we are a non-gun culture. I didn't say an anti-gun culture. We are a non-gun culture. When Wallace hits Malcolm with that, Malcolm says something. Malcolm says, well, two brothers were sent to me with revolvers. They had guns. So Malcolm is saying, well, they talk that non-gun talk, but two brothers who were with them were sent at me with revolvers. And that becomes an important part of the false narrative. Those two brothers are Abraham Bey and Orbit Bey. Muslims they originated in Kansas City. So the narrative is that, these two FOI, Orbit Bey, Abraham Bey, and Orbit Bey were sent, presumably by the nation, to kill Malcolm with revolvers. Well, when you actually dig in a file, you find something extremely important. Orbit Bey and Abraham Bey were NYPD assets. Their gun culture their gun possession didn't originate from the Nation of Islam. They were part of a counterculture that was developing in the nation in 1963-64. We know when they got their guns, and we know who they got their gun from. Seizu Takahara, the CIA agent and Asian who was sent to infiltrate the Nation of Islam, he trained the assassins of Malcolm X in assassination, but he was with Malcolm X. He trained Malcolm's people for security, but then behind the scenes, he trained the assassins of Malcolm because Seizu Takahara was a CIA agent in the Nation of Islam. He's the one that gave people guns. Thomas 15X Johnson, he says he was the first official to be caught with a gun. No, he shot Benjamin Brown because he says he was the first official because we are a non-gun culture. He was the first official. He was a lieutenant in the Bronx. He was the first official to be caught with a gun, and he was put out the mosque because that's the law. Where did you get your gun from, Thomas 15X Johnson? The same person who Abraham Bey got his gun from, that Orbit Bey got his gun from. NYPD informants. That's what the file discloses. These are informants that were working with the CIA. They were NYPD informants working with a CIA agent who introduced the gun culture and trained them in guns. Charles 24X Hale. Charles 24X Hale. Where did you get your gun from? The same person. So the gun counterculture within the nation that Abraham Bey and Orbit Bey represented was not the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They were intelligence assets. And so when Malcolm says, well, basically forget what Elijah's talking about. These two brothers were sent to me with revolvers, not by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Their gun possession, their gun ownership came through the intelligence apparatus. No one who quotes Malcolm at that moment, citing this as an example of the nation trying to kill him with guns, none of them revealed that those weren't Nation of Islam guns. Those were NYPD CIA guns. And the two brothers who were supposedly sent to you were NYPD assets. So that's not an example of the Nation of Islam trying to kill Malcolm X. That's another example of the intelligence agency targeting Malcolm X with their assets in the nation and among Malcolm X. That's a jewel that we only get if we plumb the depth of this massive body of files, which the pillars of the official narrative show no evidence that they have done.
So again, Doc, when these, you said, so we don't need the files, them to reopen anything. You're saying that with what we already have, you can get the gist of what happened.
Absolutely.
with what we already have. Not, we don't need to wait.
We absolutely don't need to wait.
Mm.
We can forensically reconstruct what happened, why, and how with the thousands of files that are available, but we have to avail ourselves to them in a non-bigoted way. When I say non-bigoted, the 5 horsemen of Malcolm X scholarship are very bigoted against the Nation of Islam. And so that bigotry causes them to select certain facts and omit other facts to build this narrative. The Nation of Islam killed Malcolm X. The Nation of Islam did not kill Malcolm X.
Doc, I gotta drop a bomb for you.
Fire! 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 Fire!
Dr. Wesley, do you have any closing words for the listening audience, Doc?
I'm thankful, Dr. Maya, to be extended the opportunity to come on your platform. It's a wonderful platform. You do hardcore work, head-knocking work. Speak truth to power. I pray that Allah continues to bless you with success. I'm just honored and humbled that you allow me a few moments to discuss this with your audience because, and I'll close here, while I appreciate it, the false narrative is successful, has power when the Nation of Islam's perspective is deliberately banned from it. So all of these conversations about Malcolm X, all of these panels, they refuse to include the Nation of Islam. So all who invite us to contribute to this conversation, I have great respect for. So I respect you and I appreciate you for opening up your platform to us to share our perspective.
Doc, I appreciate you and all of your scholarship, all of your hard work, and just dedication to your commitment to truth. That's what I applaud and appreciate, your commitment to truth and your commitment to educating our people. I mean, Doc, I've been following you for years. You know, I'm a fan of yours.
It's mutual fandom.
Yes.
It's mutual fandom. I'm a fan of yours.
Yes. And I always, whenever you lecture, you know, whether it's in person or it's on YouTube or, you know, Facebook, whenever you lecture, I always walk away with learning something, you know, that I didn't know before. And so I thank you for all of your work. I thank you for your revelations. There were a lot of revelations tonight. And I give thanks for that. You're a very busy person. And when I called, you had no issue with saying I'll be on. And I just appreciate, I just appreciate whenever I call you, whether it's to come on to the platform or whether it's, you know, Doc, can you get on the plane and come to Baltimore and do this lecture? You say, Doc, I'm gonna look at my schedule and I'll be there. And so I just
change in the future.
And so I just appreciate you, my brother. And I'll just people always know, people know that I'm a friend and a fan of the Nation of Islam. I'll never forget that day when you had came in and I opened for you. Reality Speaks, Brother Jabari brought you in and I opened for you. And then the next day you were speaking at Muhammad Mosque number 6.
And you joined us.
Yes.
It was beautiful.
Yes, it was beautiful.
Shout out to Student Minister Carlos Muhammad. And
yes.
And with Muhammad Mosque number 6.
Number 6. And that was the day. I don't know if you remember, but, you know, I was going through a lot. And this was at the time I was on the scenes and people were just coming at me, you know, just coming at me. I'm getting death threats here, death threats there.
Truth to power.
Yes. And so remember when Minister Carlos Muhammad, he said, I'll never forget, he said, FOI on your feet. 100 men stood up And I mean, I was in tears. I don't know if you remember this day because you were to my left. You were to my left. He said,
I
"F.O."
remember it distinctly.
Yes, he said, "FOI on your feet," and you all stood up. And he said, "You see this woman right here?" And you all said, "Yes, sir." You said, "She is under the protection of the Nation of Islam. Do you understand?" You all said, "Yes, sir." Then he said, "Her family is under the protection of the Nation of Islam. And do you understand?" And they said, "Yes, sir." And then he looked at me and he said, "Allah moved me to say that to you. And if you ever have any issues, my sister, just, don't hesitate to reach out." So I love you. I love the nation. And I'll always
love you.
And my platform will always be available to the Nation of Islam.
Thank you, Doc. We love you. We appreciate you.
Ashe, ashe. So family, join me back here on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have a film producer coming on. Is a producer of the Freedom of North Carolina. We'll be talking about the importance of Black people controlling our narratives. And so it's going to be a powerful conversation this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining in.
Let's calm.
Oops, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for joining in tonight, family. Peace and Black power.
Let's combat and fight back with maltraction. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.